everybody. So I am Dr. Raquel. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Best Life Abroad, Not Your Average Travel podcast. And welcome. Today, I'm actually going to be sharing my story with you. So if you remember, I'm not even going to say if you listen, because I know that you did. So I will say if you remember, in season 1, episode 1, we spoke to my hubby Lou, Courtney, and he shared about kind of how we got started together living abroad. But my journey abroad started a little bit earlier than that. So I studied abroad before we officially moved abroad. And so I just want to share kind of what my journey was to moving abroad. And then also how Best Life Abroad, Not Your Average Travel podcast, and Best Life Abroad got started. First, I will tell you a little bit about when I started considering studying abroad. So I was a junior in college. Myself and 2 or 3 other people, we were the first ever Spanish majors at Hampton University, HU. There were 2 options for us. So I couldn't even tell you what the other option was because I wasn't doing that. But the option that I selected was to study abroad. And so there had to be like some language immersion that we were required to do for our major. And so I decided, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to be studying abroad. And my dad decided to come with me for my first 10 days that I was in Madrid. So I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain. And it was very interesting. And so interesting is the word that I choose to use because it definitely was a learning experience for me. So while my dad was there, it was amazing. We traveled all the time. We saw the places. We went to different restaurants. It was very interesting because like once my dad left, my whole experience just completely changed. It was kind of like I had a bodyguard with me while he was there. And then he left and it was like, where am I? So at that time, it was 2003 when I studied abroad in Madrid. And at that time, most of the darker skinned Black women who were there were prostitutes, at least the ones that I saw. So many of the women who looked like me were prostitutes. And so with that, I constantly got solicited, but even beyond solicited, like touched and pulled and all the things. And so it was constantly like stepping out of my home was like, okay, get ready for what is about to ensue. And so it was a very different experience than what I had ever had to deal with. And I was 21 at the time, 21. Yeah. And so it was rough. It was a rough time for me. I was there. Thankfully, there were 3 other women of color who were there with me. And so it was just great having other people there who could relate to some of the things that I was experiencing. And I'm going to sidebar for a minute. So when you have people who are like, this is a great place for Black people, or this is a great place for whoever, I want you to take that information and then start doing some research, because there's no such thing as the Black experience anywhere. So for example, there were 4 of us who were together in Spain, but nobody had the experiences that I had to the extent that I had them, because we were all different hues, even amongst the Black women who were there. And so we all had very different experiences in Madrid, and a lot of the foolery overlapped, but there was some foolery that was unique for me. And so you just always want to make sure that you are doing your own research as to what is the best fit and what is the best country for you. So you will have people who say, Black people don't like the cold, so we do not want to move there. Lies. There are many Black people who like cold, many Black people who enjoy a good ski. a good jet ski, a good snowboard. So you want to make sure that you are digging into your own research to see what's the best fit for you. Okay. Okay. So back to the story. So we had very differing experiences while we were in Madrid. But although there were lots of things that I experienced where I was like, this is for the birds, this is not for me. I do not fit in here. There were other things that I was like, I want more of that. So just even like the pace of life, the idea that you could actually not live to work, that you don't have to try to work every single second of the day in order to make a significant or a sufficient living for yourself. The fact that in the middle of the day, you could try to go to a store if you want to. You can try to handle business if you want to, but we have prioritized a siesta, and so that is not about to be a thing because you are in a rush. Does not mean that I then put what I need to decide, and I had never seen that before in real life. And so just people enjoying life, just like living their best life, and I had just not seen that before, like where you don't have to like go on vacation to experience something. You can say, hey, I'm just going to travel to Lisbon for the weekend, which we did. And so it was just really a lot of the things that I saw, I had never witnessed before. And so it was kind of like, okay, these pieces of this experience do not fit me. But these pieces, I want more of those. And so there were two things that I decided in that 21st year of life. I decided that I was going to dedicate my time and my energy to making sure no other people had the experience that I had while they were abroad, because it was totally preventable. There were many things that, I would have never imagined reading what I read, researching what I researched. I never would have ever imagined that the experiences that I had in Madrid would have ever been a thing. And so it's so important. It was just, to me, it was like all of these things were completely preventable. And so I want to help to make sure that nobody else experiences these things that I've experienced. And the other thing that I decided was, yes, I need to move abroad, because this is where my heart sings. Number one, I love languages, I love cultures, and I love that I could actually like enjoy my life and not have to worry about grinding 24/7. So I was like, okay, this is where it is. And so yeah, so I went back home, and I made those two decisions. So I went on, I became a teacher, I got married, and then my husband and I, as you know, my husband and I made a decision to move abroad. And so when we first moved abroad, we moved to Germany. And when we moved to Germany, I was very skeptical. Like we were like, we're moving abroad 2 years max. That's all this is about to be. Um, Even like going through the process of getting a visa in Germany, I was like, everybody is rude. I don't know. Whew, I don't know what this is about to be. But then it was like the moment we stepped foot off of that airplane, we had a family there. They were just so helpful, so loving, so kind. Even like there are so many different like festivals and holidays. And so like I think I remember one thing specifically where we just kind of like stumbled on, we were taking the train somewhere. We just decided like, hey, let's go somewhere for the day. We were taking a train somewhere, and I think it was Fasching. And so everybody had a bottle of something on that train and a glass and a whole bunch of glasses. And so like we just had like people like, here, take a glass. Just, we made many friends on that train ride, and like actual friends. Like we got off the train, got home, and then like saw people in the grocery store, and they were like, hey, come over, come have dinner. We did. And so they became our homies. And so it was like it was a completely different experience. And not to say it was without the foolery, because there were many things that I was like, I don't know about this. But it was a space that was different from Madrid. And that in Madrid, even when I was like, yeah, I'm American, people would say, no, you're not. They would tell me to my face that I was not an American. Um, Whereas in Germany, where I would say, yeah, I'm American, they'd be like, oh, okay. So I was definitely American before I was Black. And so with being American, which again, Courtney discussed in episode 1, is there's a lot more of a classism than there is a racism. At least that's what we experienced in Germany. And so that Americanism equals money. And for being a Black American, it also equals coolness. And so Trevor Noah said it best, where he said, Black Americans are the coolest Black people on the planet. And I think that other people believe that. And so there was a cool factor and a money factor that were built into being Black in Europe at that, in Germany for us. And we leaned all up into that thing because it made my experience very different there than it was in Spain, where they were like, no, you're not, it's not possible. And so, so yeah, it was a different experience. As far as like language, I spoke Spanish. I had studied Spanish for years and years, and still it was not really helpful in the things that I experienced while I was there. It was helpful in my ability to communicate to people who actually were like administrators for my program that I was studying in, or professors. So that was helpful in communicating, like, actually, I'm not going to do this, and this is why, or this is what I need, and this is why. But when we moved to Germany, we spoke zero German. But we were still able to learn the language while we were there. We were still able to build a community while we were there. We had amazing cultural experiences while we were there. And when I say there was still foolery, like I remember we were at a park, and we were at a park with some of our friends who had kids. And so we didn't have kids at the time. So we were just like, hanging, playing with their kids or whatever. And I remember the ball, my husband was playing soccer with one of our friends' kids, and the ball like rolled towards this little boy. And he went to pick it up, and the baby started crying. And then the mom picked up the baby in German. She goes, I know, it's a big Black man. It's okay. I know. And so like things like that, where it's like, really, girl? Is that really what we say when we don't have any filter? And so yeah, she was very unbothered. And she was just gonna say what she wanted to say. And so, it's not to say that if you move anywhere that you will not have to experience like difficult situations. Especially as a person of color moving somewhere. But for me, the trade-off was much better than what it was here. I felt safe while I was living in Germany. I felt safe while I was living in Belgium. I did not feel safe while I was in Spain. And so, it's important for you to figure out what are those things that you value and what are those things that you need in order to feel safe and secure in the space that you're in, whether that be the United States or whether that be somewhere abroad. And so from Germany, while I was in Germany, I was a teacher. I taught at several universities there. I taught English for business. I taught technical English. I taught English for law. What else did I do while I was there? I taught Spanish while I was there. I taught Spanish and German. Now that was an experience. But it was great. I really had a great time. It was amazing that like my kids were just attentive and they did everything you asked them. And I was like there was one course that I taught and I didn't know until midway through the semester that they actually didn't get a final like exam at the end. So typically how it worked in Germany is that with education within university systems, specifically languages, like you don't have tests throughout the academic year. You have one final exam at the end of the year. And so my manager just forgot to tell me that there was no test at the end of the year. And I was like, so wait a minute. I have like 100% attendance every class period, and these children do not have an exam to take at the end. They're just coming every day because they're supposed to. And he was like, yes, why would they not? And which is very German for him to say that, but anywho. And so it was just like, wow, that is not a thing. And so, yeah, it was really a great experience. We have relationships that we still have today. Like my child, like I've mentioned several times over the course of this season, my child is in German immersion, so we can speak to our German family and friends. That's it. And so from Germany, my husband retired from football, and I got offered a position in Belgium. And Belgium was very different. Like that's where we feel is like our home abroad, because Belgium was very different in that I remember going to my interview, my second interview for the position I ultimately got offered. And when I went, I got off the train. I took the train from Germany. Well, I flew from Germany to Brussels, took the train from Brussels into Antwerp. And I remember I got off the train and I was like, what is going on? So, but before I actually got the job offer, I was like, I'm not leaving Germany. Like, I love Germany. This position sounds cool, but I mean, unless it's like undeniably for me, I don't think I could move. I don't think I could leave Germany. Like, I just love it. But I'll try. I'll see what happens. And so on that second interview, when I got off that train, I was like, wait until I talk to Courtney, because I got off the train and there were Black people everywhere. They were everywhere. I never thought that I could live in Europe and not be like stared at, or like, all the things that come with being the only Black face in a sea of white. And so I was like, these people are not checking for me at all. They do not care about me and my brown face walking around this city, because there's so many other brown faces walking around this city. And then I remember where I was like, okay, I'm sold. There was a little like kindergarten class, and they were walking to the train station, and I saw like Black teachers, Muslim teachers, white teachers. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the place I want to be. This like immersion of cultures. It just really, it was something that was amazing to see. And so I got the job offer. And with that role, I was actually more immersed in like things American, because I worked with American students versus like German students. And so I got to have a little bit more of like a taste of things American. I got to be more well versed in like the kids are coming in like, oh, do you know about this? You know about that? And so it was a very different experience than from those that I had before that. And also my son was born in Belgium. So my first experience of being a mom was through the Belgian experience. And it was amazing. People in the US be like, but you're going to have your son in Belgium? Are you sure you want to do that? Like, are there hospitals okay? When I tell you, that thing was the bee's knees. Number one, was super cheap. Number two, I had an ID card. So, like your license, but let's say your license size passport. And you use that for like many things around the city, one of them being the hospital. So I would walk into the hospital, go to the little kiosk, put in my ID. It would print out a ticket that says, follow the yellow line to number 6. I follow the yellow line to number 6. That's where my appointment is. It's very clear. I had midwives there that were so great and wonderful to me. I wish I could find them. Like, I think about them so often because of how amazing they were, and how just like attentive they were, and how much they really cared. And even it was my first time ever being a mom. My son was in the NICU because he was a tiny baby. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm not leaving him." So they like helped me set up a little bed in the NICU. I was the only mom in there for some time until others kind of caught on to and like, "Oh wait, I want to be with my baby too." Um, and so it was really just a very different experience, but also Antwerp is 2 hours from London, 2 hours from Paris by train, 2 hours from Amsterdam, 45 minutes to Dusseldorf on the bus. Like it's just like centrally located for all the things. And so our ability to just travel, there were many weekends where we'd be like, it's Friday. You want to go to Paris tonight? Yeah, let's do it. And then we just hop on a bus and go to Paris. And so it was just so nice to be immersed in an international city where we could travel all over the place. I was not out of place as a person of color there. And it was kind of like a progression, like when we were in Spain, when I was in Spain, it was like, okay, what is going on right now? How do I even understand and process what I am experiencing? Why am I being treated like this? Like, what is going on? What is happening? And just like consistently trying to fight through what is normal and what is absurd. And going from that to Germany, where it was like we had this like built-in family where they were just trying to take care of us, but it wasn't necessarily like multicultural. And so, we were very often the brown speck of in the middle of a sea of white. And so it wasn't though like we were treated badly because of that though, like I said, because we were that an American speck that just so happened to also be brown. And so because we were brown, there were things that were like, we're not sure. So like even when we were looking to get an apartment there, it was really difficult. We had to have our German friends pull all the strings, and that's the only reason why we found a place to stay. Because at some point they were like, y'all just stop looking because nobody's going to give you an apartment. Like nobody's going to do it. So we'll just see who we can find that is okay with y'all living there. And then one just so happened to be like some French ladies, and they were like, they're French, so they're more used to Black people. And so they offered us an apartment, and then like another friend of our German mom, she offered us apartment too. And so that's the only reason why we even found a place to stay. So, like I said, there's foolery all over the place. So all that to say, like, I believe that I was specifically placed where I was placed for a reason. Even with all of the horrible things that I experienced while I was in Spain, I know it is because of those experiences that I'm interested in what I'm interested in now, that I am where I am now, that I have a passion for what I have a passion for now. And so I would not trade that, but I also want to make sure that although I encourage everyone who can possibly do it to experience and immerse yourself in another culture, not just go on vacation. If it's, I'm going to go spend 2 months in Costa Rica, do it. Because there is nothing that will make you more self-aware than immersing yourself in a culture that is not your own. And that can be the UK. A lot of people will say, hey, I'm moving to England because they speak English. Do they? Because I have never had as many people come down on the way that I speak as they did while I was in London or Bath or Bath, as he said. Bath is where you wash yourself, dear. Bath is where you're trying to get to. That's what he said to me. So, it's important for you to really try to figure out what's a good fit for you. Why is this even something that I'm interested in? What do you value? And over the course of my times living abroad, I actually have Antwerp as my background. There's the central station right there because this is where my heart is. But, it's important for you to kind of figure those things out. And you don't have to move from country to country to figure that out. You can figure that out now. There are so many more resources now than there were when we first moved abroad. And so I absolutely just want you to to encourage you to utilize all of them. And my only regret really is that I didn't move abroad sooner. Like I said, we planned to move abroad for 2 years. We ended up abroad for many more years than that. Um, we had a baby abroad. And we know that like life abroad is a life that we want to have forever. And so we appreciate that our parents have come to visit us. My sister has come to visit us. Right after we had my son, it was like a family roundtable coming to help us with him. And so it was just it was great to know that our family supported us even while we were not in the United States. And so, the pace of life, especially as a mom, like I feel like as a mom, my time in Europe, I was most respected as a mom, because it wasn't like, okay, you had this baby, let's get back to life as usual. It was like, okay, you had this baby, let's talk about how you're doing emotionally. Let's see how you're doing physically. We're going to check on you before we check on the baby because we know that this baby could be fine, but if you're not right, this baby's not going to be right. So let's make sure you're good. And then once we know you're good, then we'll check on the baby. Okay, because he looks fine now. So we'll check and make sure he's good. But first, Mom, how are you doing? And so it was just much more of a supportive environment. And so, yeah, just really, it's important for you to figure out what's the best fit for you. So moving on from there to kind of what led to Best Life Abroad. So I started Best Life Abroad because I consistently got questions from people or comments from people like, oh, I really wish that I could move abroad. And I would say, you can go do it right now. And then they would be like, oh, but I can't. Like, how could I move abroad? I don't even know what to do. And so I said, okay, let me help you. Um, and ultimately, there were so many people who felt the urge, the nudge, the dream of living in another place, but did not feel equipped to be able to do it, or did not feel that it was a real possibility for them. And so that's how I started Best Life Abroad, where I started helping people who really wanted to live in a different way, who knew that that different way that they wanted to experience was outside of the United States, but needed help getting there. And then Best Life Abroad, Not Your Average Travel Podcast came about because I felt like more people needed to see people doing it. Like, this is not a new thing. Like, people have been living abroad, and specifically Black people have been living abroad for many, 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 many years. Going abroad, moving abroad, leaving the US for many different reasons. That's not new. It is not necessary for you to stay in the United States just because other people stay in the United States. That's not a thing. That's not a reason. That's not real. And so really, some advice that I would have as to kind of where to get started, I would first say start investigating. If you feel that little nudge inside of you, start investigating. Use social media to your advantage. We know we're on it all the time. So use it. Start joining those groups. Start having your feed. Use that algorithm to help you figure out, okay, I think I might want to be in Honduras, or I might want to be in Dubai. So based on those, let me start joining some groups for both of those places, and then let this algorithm start bringing me more information about those places. Also, if you are thinking that you have this urge, but you keep trying to suppress it, do not suppress your guts, because you could be, even if life is good, you don't have to move abroad just because life is bad. My life was awesome in the US. I had my boo thing with me. We were traveling all the time. We were at parties, we have friends. And so it wasn't like we were escaping something. We were not escaping. It was just something that I initially felt like this is on my heart to do. Then my husband, once he got the little bug, he was on the move abroad train too. And so don't ignore your gut. As I mentioned, my only regret is that I did not do it sooner, because it was the move for me and it was the move for my family. And if you need inspiration on getting started, or like some tips on what you're supposed to do, if you're one of those people that's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, well, one, I have blog posts that you can take a look at on my website, www.yourbestlifeabroad.com. Click on blogs on the top right corner. There are blogs on country considerations. So I give you some tips on how to identify which country you want to move to. There's information there for teachers. So I know that it's about to be the summer, teachers. I was a teacher too, in K-12 and in higher education. And there's some information there if you're a teacher and you're like, I think I want to try something else. There is no time like the present. And so there's information there if you're a teacher, and resources, specific websites that you can check out if you are a teacher and you're interested in moving abroad. I also have tips on how to find current information. So sometimes you'll go and you're like, this is from 1902. So what is really going on, but how to find like current information that can help you in your search. And I also have a move abroad checklist. So there is no excuse. You can go on there, find your checklist, figure out what are the things that you need to be doing. Create your own timeline based on that checklist, and then just start taking it step by step. Okay. And then, of course, I am here to help you one-on-one. So if you're like, I'm not doing any of those things, I want to talk to you and tell you where I am, and you tell me what to do from there. Boom, I got you. Just go again to www.yourbestlifeabroad.com, click on Start Your Journey in the top right corner, and set up a time for us to connect, because I tell you all of this information to let you know that this is something I'm very passionate about. I am so passionate about you not living your life according to the status quo. That is one of the things I firmly believe in, that if you know that there's something out there for you that is different, that is maybe the road less traveled, but that is a better fit for you, then do it. If it's moving to Chicago, do it. If it's moving to China, do it. So, it's important for you to just really figure out what it is that might be best for you. And I'm absolutely willing to help you do that. So I just want to thank you all so much for your time. I want to thank you for tuning into the Best Life Abroad podcast. We are going to take the next 3 weeks to build new content for you. So keep an eye out for season 2, which will be launching on May 29th. Again, this is the end. We are wrapping up season 1. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the amazing people that I've been able to feature this season, listening to their stories. I hope you have gotten inspiration and motivation. I have myself, just seeing how many people have like pushed all odds aside, decided to persevere, decided to take the first step in order to be able to go and live the dream that they want to live. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You can just start with step 1. That's all you need to do. Take the first step. If the first step is saying, I think I might want to live in a warm climate, pick your top 5 countries that you're thinking of moving to with a warm climate. That can be a first step. And then I can help you from there. And so, yeah, if any of you are interested in moving abroad and you need some help, I'm absolutely here to support you. So again, www.yourbestlifeabroad for information on how to get started and make your move abroad a reality. I also want you to stay connected while we are building that new content for you. You can watch full YouTube videos of each podcast episode at Best Life Abroad and YouTube. You can find us on the gram at Your Best Life Abroad. You can tweet us at Best Life Abroad, and you can also check us out on Facebook at Best Life Abroad. So again, information, resources, set up a time to talk with me, www.yourbestlifeabroad.com. But I really, really just want to again say, there is no time like now. If you are interested now, do it now. Do not wait 2, 5, 10, 15 years to make your dream a reality. If you have bills, if you have kids, all of these things, you can find the location that can help you pay off your bills quicker. You can find the location that can help you support your children better. Any situation that you're in, you can find a country that could be a good fit for you. And so I'm absolutely would love to help you do that. So thank you again for joining me today. As always, there is no time like the present to live your best life abroad. I am Dr. Raquel. Thanks for listening, and we out.